I had like really high ambition career goals, right? And then I made a choice to get married, and we ended up moving to Germany right out the gate. And so it was the most black and white choice. And I remember somebody sitting me down and actually telling me I was giving up all my potential. That's what a mentor actually told me. I hate to see you give up all your potential just to get married. And I don't think anybody was ever going to tell a man that, by the way.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
It really put a ton of fear in me at the time of like, oh, maybe that is what I did. And I probably shrunk myself for a lot of years as a result of that.
And we ended up getting married. And I became a military spouse. We went and lived overseas. And again, it was those unique, it was adding those unique things into an otherwise chaotic world, but very chaotic. But ultimately, it really helped me to process that at this juncture, actually, I come first. And that was a really new thing.
Welcome to Women and Work, the show where we take an inside look at how women are overcoming our own unique challenges as we grow our careers or build a business while nurturing relationships and family. I'm Diane Mocha, founder and CEO of MomSub, the childcare app that connects you to a substitute mom. And I want you to know that work can fit your life. Each week, we meet a woman who has done that. And this week, we're doing something new and meeting two women in the same episode because they built their business together. Wendy Guth and Krystal Eicher co-founded Serendipitous Rebel to guide women to success without burnout through community and retreats. Wendy started her career in event planning before becoming an entrepreneur. She's a certified coach and mom of twins. Krystal also worked in hospitality plus retail, education, and eventually became a certified master marketer. She helps their clients simplify operations in their businesses and lives. And thank you, Wendy and Krystal, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you so much for
you.
having us.
All right. Well, you both spent your career in fields that are generally dominated by women. And I wonder if you think that made your journey easier. But I want to start first with talking about the obstacles because we all know that we face those. And I want to ask specifically of each of you what you think has been the biggest challenge in your career, specifically because you are a woman. Wendy, what do you think?
Mm. Oh, what an interesting question. So, I think that sometimes I think women, we're really hard on each other. And I spent a lot of years in events, which was very much female dominated, though I entered where the higher level positions were definitely all men. And that was a very interesting time, actually in the late 80s, early 90s. But I think we're very hard on each other. And I think that to some extent, and this is a generalization, but we think we know what's best. That so every mother should follow a certain path. Every woman who doesn't have children should follow a certain path. And I think that that was hard because we all are unique individuals with our own stories. And I eventually lost my job because I hit a certain age and I hit a certain, you make a certain amount of money. And the feeling is that either you're not doing enough to warrant it, or we can replace you with younger, cheaper people, all those sorts of things. And I had decided at that point that I needed the freedom and the flexibility that fits with my own unique story and my life. So, yeah, I think that we need to learn to be kinder and more curious to what we each need.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And what about you, Krystal?
So unequivocally, yes, it was there were definitely obstacles being a woman, but also I was a military spouse. And so we moved 7 times in an 11-year period.
Ah,
So there was the obstacle of just finding a job. And, at a certain point, when you live in these communities, they know you're a military spouse and they know you're not going to be here for very long. And it was so interesting because before I got married, I started in events, much like Wendy did. And I was 19 years old and was all of a sudden the event planner for the city of Long Beach, right? And I had like really high ambition career goals, right? And then I made a choice to get married, and we ended up moving to Germany right out the gate. And so it was the most black and white choice. And I remember somebody sitting me down and actually telling me I was giving up all my potential. That's what a mentor actually told me. I hate to see you give up all your potential just to get married. And I don't think anybody was ever going to tell a man that, by the way.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
I don't think that conversation was ever given to a man, but I was told I was throwing away all my potential. And
Wow.
Mm.
um, it, and I will be honest, it really put a ton of fear in me at the time of like, oh, maybe that is what I did. And I probably shrunk myself for a lot of years as a result of that because I didn't pursue things ambitiously. I didn't go for things. And at the time, I was 25 years old. So, like, yeah, it was a whole lifetime ago, right? 20 years later, here we are. But I think, 20 something year old me took that really personally and really hard. And I thought, well, I do just need to go for these little things. And I also, when you grow up the way I grew up, you really tie productivity and jobs to like a lot of self-worth, right? Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I want to make money, I want to be a contributing member of this family and all of those things, but while dealing with the obstacles of having to move after so many years. And then when we did have kids, my oldest was born with special needs. And so it was like a double whammy of all the things we had to do. So, and all the expectations of handling all of that was on me because he was deployed all the time and societal expectations of roles of what it means to be a mom. And I was supposed to love being a stay-at-home mom, and what a gift. And I'll be honest, I hated it. I hated every second of it. And it wasn't until I really figured out that, oh, there are actually other opportunities I could create for myself and
Yeah.
get kind of the audacity to do that. And still had people say, who do you think you are in that process? So, I mean, it's constant. Yeah.
Wow, you went through quite an arc.
It
I
was
wonder
a
if the
loaded question.
person,
You got a loaded answer.
right, I wonder if the person who told you that was a man or a woman.
Woman.
That's what I thought. And I
Yeah.
think that plays right into what Wendy said, that
Mm-hmm.
women are harsh on each other. And this
Mm-hmm.
obviously had a huge impact on you because it's the first thing that popped in your mind. It's a phrase you've kept and held there your whole life because you just spit it out so quickly. And
Mhm.
you know how it impacted years
Mm-hmm.
of your life. And so this woman, of course, she wasn't meaning to hurt you, but she may have been you know, and there's nothing wrong with being a strong feminist woman, but she
Mhm.
was like, oh, you need to be a strong feminist woman in the way I am. And of course, you could be a strong woman. You could be a feminist if you want. You can be whatever you want as you're helping to let other women know. But you don't have to do it in her way or society's way or the way your husband says or the way your parents say. You
Mhm.
can do it anyway. And I know this is, one of the messages that you're delivering to all the people in your community. And before we jump into that, we talk about this balance. whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of people that don't even bring up work-life balance, but whatever you want to call it, I want to know how each of you navigated when children came along. If it was like a very difficult thing, like, okay, I'm not sure if this is the right time. Is this going to impact my career? This is going to take precedence. How am I going to balance this? What do you think, Wendy? What was going on in your mind? And then when you found out you were having twins,
Well, and I'm an older mom. So I actually had the twins at 40. Yeah. I had already, I had an established career. Um, I had the opportunities to travel and do everything, and I really wanted kids. When, we waited a little bit after getting married, but it was like, okay, the clock is ticking. And actually, my brother had passed away, and that really added to the need for like legacy kind of things. Anyway, but soon after that, I knew my marriage was over. Yeah, really soon
after you
after
had the
that.
children?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. So it was really hard because I was living in the suburbs of Washington, D.C., commuting in every day, and I had twins, and I was fortunate that I could take off 4 months. I had, 4 months of maternity leave. But after that, and my parents actually at the time were living in Florida, and I didn't have, the safety nets that a lot of people have with family and all that nearby. And I lived in what I call a max Q world. And max Q is an aeronautical term that it is the maximum energy needed for liftoff or crashing. And I always felt that I had to just push enough to lift off and not crash in order to live my life and just sort of survive. And it was hard, I have to say. I wish I had known about Mom Sub back then, really. And I actually ended up with au pairs. And so went that route. And for almost, I guess we had 9 of them, 9 and 10 years, which was, yeah, oh my gosh. And I have to
That's
say
why
that
we exist. Yes. I
exactly.
went
Oh
through
my gosh.
12 in 4 years, not au pairs, but different kinds of childcare.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And it is just but it's like I didn't have a choice. And that was at that particular juncture in my life, I did not have a choice. I had to do whatever I could to make sure that really ultimately that the kids came first and then me. And it was hard. It was hard. And I think that I look back and serendipitously, I lost my job, and I also at that time was dating a retired Army officer who worked for the DoD, and he was stationed overseas, and we ended up getting married. And I became a military spouse. We went and lived overseas, and again, it was those it was adding those unique things into an otherwise chaotic world, but very chaotic. But ultimately, it really helped me to process that at this juncture, actually, I come first. And that was a really new thing. My health comes first because I can't be for everyone else. Now, it's not that my kids and my husband aren't really close behind, and Krystal and the business are not really close, but I come first. And one of the things that came up with Serendipitous Rebel is that the first thing I block off in my calendar is my exercise. We usually don't start working till about noonish, one-ish. because the mornings are blocked, and now Krystal's doing her Pilates, so yay. And we try, but these are important things as, we go forward. And then I realized this as the kids were getting older, their needs of me changed. I was a driver. Which is always the fun thing. And they needed me less, though now they're in college, they still need me. Like they're home right now. And actually I find sometimes they need me more now than they did before, because parenting doesn't end.
Yeah.
Or at least in my world, it does not end. So
Yes.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree. Mine are in their 20s and just moved out this summer. And so
You
yeah,
know,
still
and
still need me, and I'm glad. I like
yes, and you miss them.
but it is nice to have that extra closet space.
Ugh.
So, but it's so cliche, but really it's about putting on your mask first, right? Before you
Yes.
help your child with their mask. And so, Krystal, I want to hear about your journey when you were thinking about kids, had them. Was it a big master plan? Did you adjust your career? What did it mean for your life, and how did you navigate that?
So I had actually quit a really toxic job position and we had made the decision to have kids. And I was at the time actually making plans to go back to school. I was actually going to get my teaching certification. I was going to go and teach high school full time. That was the plan. And then I had my oldest, Sydney, and when she was 5 days old, she was a preemie. They told me at 5 days old, they had discovered she was born with a brain malformity and she would never walk or talk. And I mean, like, just whole world came crashing down, right? And I would like to flash forward to she's 13 right now, and she's homesick actually today of all things, because that is life too. And she is walking and talking, and she's in a special education program at school in a life skills classroom, but she is walking and talking. Just would like
So don't listen if someone says this is your lot in life,
this is
whether
your lot
they're
in
a
life.
doctor that studied for, 8, 10 years or not. Nothing wrong with the medical establishment or with homeopathic, all the things, but you have to have your own hope and your own desire to.
Well, I remember rocking her the day they told me, and I said, little girl, we're going to spend a lifetime exceeding expectations.
Good for you.
So I pivoted. Okay. And I was a stay-at-home mom for a lot of years. And I really did enjoy it. I was bored. And I had a harder time connecting in the mom world because I hated going to mommy and me groups. My kid was not developing the way other kids were developing. You know, other moms don't want to be your kids to be friends with their kid when you have a special needs kid all the time. They're awful sometimes, or there's a lot of weird comparisons that go on with moms. Moms are competitive. It's weird. And I remember her having a meltdown in the bathroom once, and this woman looked at me with judgment, and I said, "What happened to the solidarity of motherhood? Like, can we just have like a little bit of solidarity here?" But so it took me a long time to find my people and find my grouping. And like Wendy, I didn't live near family. We were kind of an island on our own, and I tried a lot of like MLM opportunities. I sold Jamberry for a while. I sold Pampered Chef for a while. I was trying just to do something because I was good at it. I liked it. And that's when I was actually reading a magazine and they said, "Hey, start your own travel business." And I was like, well, I could do that. We had lived overseas for 6 years. I logistics and planning, that's my shtick. I could totally do that. And it took some selling to my husband a little bit about this idea. Like, I think I could try this and I could work from home and it would give me that flexible schedule that we're meeting with the kids, because Sydney was still doing 3 or 4 doctor's appointments a week. And then by the time she turned 5, we had my second. So I had, I think Lorelai was like 6 months old when all of this kind of came about, because I was like, I want to try this. I want to do it. And also, here's the reality of doing all of that. we can know it takes a village to raise kids. We don't have a built-in village. We're going to have to buy one.
Good point.
We're going to have to buy one.
Yes.
We need a bench. We need qualified, and we need more than just the high school kid around the block, because my oldest had seizures, and we need somebody with some big gun energy who could come in and help out. And my brother was living with us a little bit for a couple months there, and he would help out here and there. But I said, we need somebody a little bit more full-time like this. So we actually ended up on care.com of all things, which I wish, it was so funny. Mom Sub is such a great asset for women to have, because you really get the gamut on a lot of other apps and other places. And I gotta tell you, I've interviewed some cuckoo cachoo people over the years, right? But I interviewed about 40 people and ended up with 5. And it was like, okay, these are my people I can call. Because also I had a husband who's military. He's gone all the time. He was special ops. He was gone 6 months. He was gone like 10 months out of the year, non-consecutively. He'd be gone for 3 weeks here. He'd be home for a week. He'd be gone for 6 months. He'd be home, gone for 3 days. I mean, it was just a revolving door. So I hired a bench, and I was like, great. We have people here I can call. I would work a lot during nap times. When they went to school, that became a little bit easier because I could do things during school hours. But otherwise, I mean, the reality of it is you cannot do it all right now. I think you can have it all at some point, but I do think there is a reality to being a mom and being a business owner. And I wish more people talked about it and normalized it. You're not doing it wrong because it's hard. It is hard because you're doing it. And it's hard for all of us. But the fact of the matter is, I don't know the last time I went to a grocery store. All my groceries get delivered still today almost. Okay.
I send my husband.
That's amazing. Brandon couldn't tell me what a sweet potato was once when I tried to send him to the store. My husband could burn water. It's amazing. So I get groceries delivered. Instacart is my friend. I love Fiverr. Like, if somebody else can go get this for me and bring it to me, it is worth every penny of every fee that I pay to make that happen. And that all started, when Lorelai was about 6 months old and I was starting my business. It was just this reality that, okay, if I'm going to do this, you cannot, I can't run the webinar and have a baby crying in the background. I wish I could, but and as they get older, there's things that can be flexible with all of these things, but I have to figure out contingencies and how I'm going to handle all the aspects of my life.
And buying that village is an investment.
Oh gosh, yes.
And so many women are so afraid. We talk to women about our registration fee to get started with finding their match, to save them from 40 contacts and interviews, right? And I mean, $100 or $200, and they're like, let me ask my husband, let me think about this for a week. It's like, what's your time worth? You've got to prioritize yourself and understand that like you said, the fees you're paying for the delivery are nothing compared to not just the time you get to work on your business, but the quality of your life, to not feel like you're running in a million directions and then never getting anywhere, right? And so I am curious about this idea of military spouses. If you were both military spouses before you had met, is that how you met? And is that one of the things that helped you really bond? Because that's a unique situation.
Yeah. So I actually did travel as well. And we both had agreed to do a summit, an online summit that was run for military spouses, and how they could, get into travel. So we actually, or get into travel or work on their travel businesses. So we actually ended up doing we did a number of them, but the first one we did a joint session on Facebook groups because we both had Facebook groups for our travel businesses. And we totally hit it off. And I remember Krystal saying to me, we're going to work together at some point. And I looked at her like, whoa. And she had just this
Lady alert.
unbelievable, amazing energy. I'm definitely the introvert in our business. But her energy is contagious, which is phenomenal. And we started then we did about 3 or 4 summits over a couple of years, and then I was actually moving back to the States, and you were just, Krystal, moving, you were just getting settled in Houston, I
Yes.
guess, and we were moving back to the East Coast, and we had an opportunity to form a partnership with another person, and to focus on not necessarily travel, but helping travel advisors with their businesses. So starting the coaching thing, and the pandemic hit, and no one's travel was selling anyway. So we were happy to sort of transition into something different. And we got our respective certifications, but we realized separately and then together that that particular business model wasn't really right for us. So, yeah, but we definitely bonded over. And it's interesting, even though I am the senior of the two of us, I was very much in need of Krystal's insight and when it came to being a military spouse. I was new to this. I thought the first place we went, I was going to have like an Army Wives TV experience. And she just howled with laughter, and still howls with laughter.
A little
And
bit.
yeah. And we're actually hopefully going overseas again. And I'm like, is it going to be more like Army Wives this time? And she's like, no. But yeah, and there is a tight, it's an interesting world to be in. And if you find people who are supportive and kind and giving, it is an amazing world to be in. But there is the usual pitfalls that wherever you go, any community you're in, you can run into the same stumbling blocks. So
So, Krystal, when did you actually first meet Wendy? I mean, was it in a Facebook group? You each had a Facebook group, and
No,
then,
so it was when
and
it
were
was
you
with
in different cities? Like,
oh yeah.
did you
yeah, we were in
first just,
different countries.
so you
Yeah.
were meeting just through like
Zoom.
DMs and through and seminars, and because
Zoom.
people interact so much online with
Yeah.
friends that aren't really friends. And so to hear a story of two people that became friends and then became business partners, where did the germination of that start?
So when we were asked so a friend of ours was hosting these virtual summits and said, "Hey, we would like you guys to teach this, but we think you could teach it together." And it was to teach about how we had started and how we grow our Facebook groups.
Did you know
And
Wendy at that point?
no, and
Okay.
so we actually hopped on a Zoom call. And so that was in what, 2018-ish,
Yeah.
So
2019.
Yeah.
someone brought you together.
So someone
Yeah.
brought us together, and it was in that Zoom call. I was like, I think we're going to work together. I just called my shot. And we actually continued to co-work together online and on Zoom. And when the opportunity to start, it was a membership program, this other business that Wendy had just referred to. And when that opportunity came, and I was like, hey, I can teach marketing. This other person was to teach the business operation side of it. Wendy was getting her life coaching certification at the time. And I said, really, what most people need in business, I will just like say, they come to Serendipitous Rebel for me because they think they need marketing and strategy. And what they need 99% of the time is Wendy. 99% of the time, they don't need me. They just think they do. They need Wendy. And it and so when we brought her into that, and yeah, we worked remotely. We have
Yeah.
worked remotely together. Wendy's in Maryland, I'm in Texas. We travel to back and forth with each other. We meet in random locations and co-work, and then we host these retreats together. But we are 100% a virtual
Mhm.
partnership. It's really phenomenal.
And then the retreats are in person.
The retreats
Yes.
are in person. Um, and we've hosted what, about four of those over the years. And they, but what's amazing though is Wendy's my soul sister.
Hmm.
She is family now.
Hmm.
And I think that's the cool thing about the world today. To your point, you said people meet each other online all the time and have these connections and these friends. And how does that work? My closest relationships do not live anywhere near me.
Wow.
And I do think that is the strength of being a military spouse, is that you really do understand very quickly that location does not matter in relationships,
Hmm.
because you forge these bonds with people over the years. And 15, 17, 20 years later, I'm still in touch with people. And I think that's a strength that I have and that I have grown over the years. Wendy, I'm sure you feel the same. Just
Hmm.
to keep in touch with people.
Yeah.
I think, and I don't want to say the average citizen, but I think a non-military community, that's a muscle they've not had to exercise over the years. A lot
Yeah.
of times you move and then that's it. You're kind of done.
Yeah.
So, Wendy, this first Zoom meeting, 2018, when you connect and realize you have a lot in common, when was it that you decided to actually, we're going to do a business together? It's going to be called Serendipitous Rebel. And how
Oh.
formal was it? Were you like, was one or both of you, okay, we're going to create a contract, we're going to specify who's going to do what, we're going to explain how much each of us owes, how much of each of us are contributing to this, both in time and money, or was it just kind of like, let's just start and see what happens?
So in 2020, we realized that the membership business that we were part of, it wasn't going to work. It didn't meet our needs or values. And I remember sitting in New Orleans, we got together face to face. We're a better place to do it. And we kind of looked at each other and were like, eh. And soon after that, it just started closing up shop. And I don't remember actually, I think I do remember. We had to close up shop, and we had one retreat that we still needed to deal with. And it was in Costa Rica. And I remember sitting outside. I was getting ready to go row, and I was sitting in the car, and we were having a conversation, and we're like, we could flow this together and continue to work. And originally, Krystal was Serendipitous Traveler, and I was Rebel on the Go. And it just sort of like, you know what? Serendipitous Rebel really works for us. And even though there is the idea of serendipity and rebelliousness, oh, we were like, we need a contract, we need an LLC, we need to do everything by the book, because even though we had a lot of that with the membership group, we really needed to lay everything out. It was very important that we made sure that we were very much in sync. And we did the work. And we had actually done a bit of that we were able to carry over, just in terms of making sure we knew our values, what we were looking for, all the different elements we really knew need to be lined up. And I remember, Krystal, I thinking about it now, you saying, I'm not sure this is going to work, but let's try it. Yeah. And actually, I can see myself sitting in the car right now, getting ready to go exercise. And yeah, and I'm like, okay. And it was interesting because I had joined the membership group with the understanding that something I think said to me, I'm not 100% sure. And I said, I'm not committing 100% of my time to this. And when it came down to it, I just kept pulling back. And I realized when Serendipitous Rebel started, I was jumping in, both feet flailing over, high diving, whatever. And I was committed to this and willing to work a lot harder and more than I did before. So something clicked and said, this is intuitively better for me.
Mhm.
So yeah,
And there are so many pitfalls with partnerships,
sure.
business
Oh, yeah.
partnerships, and
Yeah,
so many great teams that come together and then the co-founders separate and it can get
sure.
pretty ugly. And so, Krystal, I wonder if you were just as on board as Wendy with we've got to dot every I and cross every T, and what you did in terms of feeling confident that this would work. You were the one that had the inkling in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
But having an inkling and then actually seeing the vision of knowing that, we're going to work through every issue and we're not going to be worrying about like how many hours did you put in and did I put in? How did you come to grips with all of that, especially early in the process?
So when Wendy and I had started working together and the conversations of starting Serendipitous Rebel, I think we had enough life and business experience to come into this with eyes very wide open of what the expectations were, and we're able to state those expectations up front. I think that I would liken it to going into a second marriage almost. And I think that I'm really guessing here. I've only been married once myself, but as was listen to this going, what? But I think that when you are younger and you are naive to some of the pitfalls that things can happen, you kind of jump in without really knowing it. And then either you make it through those obstacles or you don't. We did that in our first partnership iteration. Okay. We made all the mistakes there, to be honest. And in that, I think we had a lot of things that protected us. We had partnership agreements, we had the LLC, we had things firmly stated out that actually made it when we dissolved that first partnership with that third person, a much easier process, to be honest. But we wanted to make sure we carried all the lessons of that into Serendipitous Rebel. And we've even coached and counseled partnerships over the years, just as clients as they have formed. And I always say, going into a partnership is like going into a marriage. Okay, you have to know, are your values aligned? Kind of like going into a marriage. If you want 4 kids and he wants no kids, you need to like do that, right? Like, I mean, and so very similar to like what Wendy and I talked. How many hours a week can you realistically contribute to this business? How much do you want to work? And from there, what are our revenue goals? Can one support the other? And I remember having all of those conversations. I think that it was the reality of like, this is what's going on in my personal life. I had a daughter getting ready to have brain surgery, and Wendy had college kids getting ready, kids in high school that were getting ready to start looking at the college process. I think we both knew we wanted businesses that were profitable, made money. I was not looking to build $1 million empire though. We were both really clear on that, because the reality of it is, just like we said before, when you want those things, there's some time and money and energy commitments that are required to get there. Okay. So making sure you're just in alignment of all of those things, right? And then, that we shared very key values: kindness, integrity, things like that, which I think came out in the dissolution of the previous partnership. Wendy is one of the most high integrity people I know. When things were getting ugly in our last partnership dissolution, that was not pretty, and it was not fun, and it was awful actually. And I think Wendy led with kindness and integrity through that entire process, which made me know this is a person that I would want to go into business with. We had very frank conversations. There's IP, intellectual property, you bring into businesses as partners, right? It's written out in our partnership agreement. Who owns what? Anything created, co-created with Serendipitous Rebel is shared IP. If there's ever a dissolution of this partnership, it's you get to take it and I get to take it. Anything that Wendy created prior to or Krystal created prior to, that becomes ours and it goes back to us. It's hard conversations, it's uncomfortable conversations, but I gotta tell you, I think Wendy and I have mastered the art of the hard conversation. We use things like my first draft is my bad first draft, my ugly first draft, or I am a military spouse. We swear a lot around here, but it's kind of, my first draft is, I think that you sounded really testy on the phone today, and I'm taking that as you're mad at me. And did I do something to offend you or upset you? Or
no, I stubbed my toe.
right. And it's usually that, right? But it's kind of having very direct, like, hey, or you did say something that really made me upset and rubbed me the wrong way, or, that joke was not well taken. I'm not saying she's done that. I've done that. I made jokes in poor taste. And oh, you know what? I'm really sorry. Let me walk that back, or let me apologize and move on. But we both say, and this is why I always tell partners when they come in, just like a marriage, your legal needs to be in line. Who's contributing what, who's doing what. There's an equal financial contribution. We're 50-50 owners in this business. But the relationship comes first. At any point, if I start to think I can do this without Wendy, we're in trouble. Right? I know that her value, and I respect her value. And then I defer to her expertise when we're dealing with something that's in her lane. I will defer to her expertise and her point in that. And I think that keeps us running really, really well. And vice versa. She defers.
Yeah, I don't touch marketing. No.
But I understand, Wendy, you're the one that came up with the SAVOR framework, which is something that you use with your community, with your clients, with your retreats. It's an acronym to help people get a better handle on all the different things in their life and how they integrate. So that was something, I guess, that you came up with before Serendipitous Rebel and before your partnership. And so what is it, and why was it so important for this piece that you had before to become part of this collective vision that you built together?
Sure. So it was born out of the pandemic, when it's, trying to figure out how to do things really internally when you're so used to being in the outside world. And I will say, I will preface it to say that it has definitely evolved with Krystal's eye. There's no question. So it is an evolutionary tool that we now use pretty much in all aspects of coaching. And I know I use it in my life. And what it is step out of your comfort zone, align with your passions and purpose, venture under your own power, open to community and connection, unwind with self-care, and ritualize gratitude and celebration. So, and it started with, I needed to get out of the house, and I did a micro habit of walking the dog every day, just up, through our development. And as I was doing this, I'm thinking about what can I do to keep from going crazy? And it was hard because we were, in the travel industry where everything is canceling and you're unpacking meetings and travel. And it was, anyway. So, and we learned early on that it really fit perfectly with the kinds of clients that we work with or wanted to work with in Serendipitous Rebel. And also really giving a framework or these pillars really helps people to focus and really to, it really does help achieving goals as well. And also it's really based on joy and just being happy. And, we all, I think about my life and where I've, my evolution. And if it doesn't make me happy at this point, it's just not happening.
Mhm.
No matter what it is, I'm not willing to sacrifice joy and happiness anymore.
Yeah, that's so true. So we always wrap up with the same question, and I want to ask it of each of you. You've been through so much, and you're, on the other side of so many struggles. And if you could go back to an earlier version of you, knowing then what you know now, what is one thing that you would change? Krystal?
Would I would try it out much faster. I think that we kind of started this that whole you are wasting your potential, right? And I think that I delayed a lot of joy in my life because I was too scared to try. And now I try everything, and man, I say yes to everything, and I want to kind of let's find out what happens. Let's throw spaghetti on the wall. Let's test that out. Let's do it. Let's sign up and say yes to the things. I delayed so much of what I wanted to support what I thought everybody else wanted of me or what they wanted. Now I do what I want. And guess what? Everybody still gets what they want and what they need, but I'm a lot more pleasant to be around.
Nice. And Wendy?
I think I would listen to my gut. I spent a lot of years listening to other people tell me, this is how your career should evolve. These are the things you should do. And a lot of it made me really unhappy. And I now listen to I listen to myself, my own intuition, and in figuring out what works best. And hey, just like Krystal said, everyone's happy. Actually, I think they're happier now that I am a much more independent person. And hey, I know what's best. And you know what? Mothers know what's best. And that can include putting themselves first and foremost.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I so appreciate everything that you shared today from both of you. If you were inspired by today's story, remember to share it with a friend, leave a review, and subscribe to meet our next amazing guest. If you or anyone you know is struggling to find the right childcare, check out Mom Sub's free webinar that guides families through the steps to find and keep trusted, reliable care at momsub.com/webinar. That's mom sub, like a substitute mom. You can connect with us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Our mission is for you to discover what you want in life, like Wendy and Krystal have done. Pursue it with intensity. Reach out for help when needed. Get that village and pay for it. And fulfill your dreams, reducing your stress, guilt, and self criticism, and increasing your calm, confidence, and clarity along the way. Remember, your career, your choices, and your success are yours to define right now, starting right now. So keep pushing boundaries and spreading your love and encouragement to other women who need it.